by riding out body-punishing 300-mile-an-hour blast down the quarter mile. Propelled by 5,000 horsepower engines, the men and women who pilot these nitro-burning marvels have one goal in mind: to run quick enough and fast enough to take a national event crown. Today, that national event is taking place in the heartland of America with a great crowd of over 20,000 on hand to cheer on their fast-track heroes. Join us as we pound the ground in Kansas. Welcome, everyone, to American Sports Cavalcade coverage from Heartland Park in Topeka, Kansas. It's the first annual Western Auto Nationals. The man who drives this 5,000 horsepower top fuel dragster, Scott Coletta, has for the 4th time this season qualified on the pole, and he did it in a very unusual fashion. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans. Now, Scott reeled off a 4.90 laps time in the twilight session on Friday. Then he boarded one of the Coletta International Airways jets and went home because his wife, Kathy, is about to have their first child. Then, Scott, you came back this morning to find you were still #1. That had to be a relief.
Yeah, it was. It's nice to stay #1, but like I was saying this morning, I'd rather go 16th and win one finally. So.
Now, you ran a 4.95, equally as impressive in round 1 to beat Tony Pedregon. That was a nice shot.
Yeah, we were real happy with that. #1, the track obviously wasn't as good. A couple cars ahead, smoking tires, and we missed yesterday. So, you know, we were kind of nervous because of that fact.
You just got off the phone. What's happening at home with Kathy?
She's okay. Looks like he's going to be cooperative in Wadle this week, so but you never know.
The Colettas are always cooperative. Now, for the funny car slant, here's my pal, Brock Yates.
Well, Steve, I'm in Al Hoffman's pit where the crew, including his wife Helen, are hard at work getting his funny car ready to go in round 2 competition here. Now, he's sitting second in points, but the man he has to chase and the man who's really putting pressure on everybody in this class is John Force, who's got a big points lead. But Al sits second in points. He's doing well here in major hot weather, Al. So you head into round 2 with pretty good ETs and a lot of pressure, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure at this race. We want to do well as this is going to be our new home track. And, you know, for everyone here, Bill Kentling's done a great job on organizing this whole race in a short period of time. Western Auto for stepping up and sponsoring the race. We'd like to thank everyone involved with that. And in the heat of the day here, we're pretty pleased with a 5:33 starting out. And if we can continue and just keep turning on win lights, that's our goal today.
I know Tommy Anderson is there with the computer. It's going to be a lot of crew chief involved in this kind of competition because I'm sure the clutch work is just real critical with track temperatures sitting around 150 degrees.
Yeah, it is. It's real critical. Tom Anderson's one of the best in the business at hot tracks and warm temperatures. And if I can do my job and leave on time and we can get a couple of rounds on Cruz Pendragon out here, we'll be real happy.
We know you're going to do your job. Good luck, Al.
Thank you.
Okay. And now for more on what's going on in Pro Stock, let's go to my pal, Bob Fry.
Thanks, Brock. The sport of drag racing is a very unforgiving sport. At the start of the season, 3 times, Larry Morgan took the Castrol Super Clean Purple car to the finals in Pro Stock Eliminator, unable to come up with a win. Then, just 2 short weeks ago, he figured he had him right where he wanted, on his home track in Columbus, Ohio. But a funny thing happened on the way to the finals. Larry Morgan DNQ'd down there. This is a whole new ballgame out here, and you guys are really running well.
Well, we made a lot of mistakes back home at Columbus, and we're trying to make up for it here. You know, all of our fans are back here. Nobody knows me here, but we're going to win anyhow.
And it's nice to be on the other side of the ladder from WJ.
Well, that's for sure. You know, he's definitely bad, but the guys on my side of the ladder are bad too, so whoever wins, I mean, it's going to be definitely a good dogfight.
Larry Morgan's been the toughest dog around in 3 of the races so far this season. He'd like to go into the winner's circle here today. Steve?
And Larry, don't kid yourself. They know who you are here in Topeka. And they certainly know who that man is in the bright yellow car. That is Eddie Hill, who has won 3 races this season. We kick off our action, Brock Yates, with round 2 of Top Fuel.
As Eddie Hill will face this young man, Mike Dunn, on board the Darrell Gwynn Top Fuel car. And Steve, this is really getting weird. When was the last time you can recall a couple of guys going against each other in round 2 competition in Top Fuel, both with ETs over 6 seconds?
I can't remember the last time, which tells you both these drivers earlier today in round 1 were very lucky. Eddie Hill only ran a 6:09, but his competition, Mike Brotherton, smoked the tires harder than he did. And Mike Dunn only ran a 660, but his competition, Jimmy Nix, red-lighted or foul started. So they got a reprieve to get him here to round number 2. Eddie Hill out of Wichita Falls, Texas, former boat racer. He is the Winston points leader in Top Fuel. Mike Dunn, former funny car driver out of Mount Joy, Pennsylvania, a California native, picked up the Darrell Gwynn ride just this season, and Darrell's extremely happy with Mike. Mike is virtually ego-free. He'll wax the 18-wheeler if that's what it takes, if nobody's available to do it. But what Darrell really likes are the reaction times. He's seen Mike cut in the La Victoria Salsa car. Eddie Hill carrying the Pennzoil banner. He has got to be nervous now. They both have to be. Have they found the reason they smoked the tires on this very hot and not that sticky Topeka track?
And it's perfectly possible somebody's going to smoke them again, because this track is very, very hot, over 150 degrees right now on the asphalt surface.
Just about staged and ready. Mike Dunn taking his time. He's in. Mike Dunn leaves first. Mike Dunn is out, but doesn't have the horsepower. And my, oh my, is Eddie Hill back on track. A 499 at 288 miles an hour. His best run today. Let's go to Bob Fry down on the starting line with crew chief Fuzzy Carter.
Fuzzy, that's the kind of race the fans like to see, and you probably love it even more. You guys won it.
Yeah, we're just trying to get down the track. It's pretty hot here today, and the track's pretty tricky, and we just backed it down to get down the track, and maybe we'll just look at it and see if we can do more for the next round. Thank you.
Backed it down to a sluggish 499.
So as we take another look at that race, as you can see on the left side of your screen, Mike Dunn does get an excellent start, a 4:43 reaction time. Eddie Hill, though, takes his time off the line and uses big power to drive by Mike Dunn. 499, 288 miles an hour. Excellent pass in difficult conditions. So Eddie Hill on into the semis. Let's go to Steve with him.
What a relief when those tires stick.
Absolutely, yeah. We're really sweating at that time after smoking the tires in the first round. We backed her way down, and ET probably wasn't impressive, but we wanted to get through there.
I thought a 499 was very impressive.
499, well, it didn't feel like it was that good. I guess we're used to those 480s. But anyway, we'll take that gratefully.
So Eddie Hill moves into the semis in difficult conditions. He's back, 499, looking strong. This man, he's always strong. John Force test fires his funny car in the pits. He'll face Kinji Okazaki in funny car round 2 coming up here at Topeka. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. And by Dodge, a division of the Chrysler Corporation.
2 weeks ago, Top Fuel racer Doug Herbert won his first ever national event at the Oldsmobile Spring Nationals. Here in Topeka on Friday, first qualifying session, his fortunes took a disastrous turn. For reasons not yet determined, at 286 miles an hour, Herbert's left rear slick blew out. He hit the left-hand wall hard. Back across the racetrack, the car slung around. Now the rear end and engine elevate the cockpit enough to get it over the highest wall on the championship trail. He then encountered an unmanned scaffolding, which may have acted as a catch net in some ways. I can tell you, when I arrived on the scene, I feared for the man's life. NHRA Safety Safari, their trained technicians were all there, the Life Flight helicopter, and Doug Herbert, though unconscious for the first 5 minutes or so, was okay. Battered and bruised, but no broken bones. Incredible, Brock.
It was indeed, and a testimony to how strong these cars are. Fortunately, no one was on that camera stand, or else we could have had other injuries. But Doug Herbert, as we watch the medevac helicopter move away, is going to return to racing and in good shape, thank goodness.
Absolutely. Round 2, Top Fuel continues. Kenny Bernstein versus Jim Head. And the winner will race Eddie Hill. The bright spot so far in the season from Jim Head has been #1 qualifier at Englishtown, New Jersey earlier in the season. His chassis works better maybe than anybody else's. He designed it and he built it. He just doesn't quite have the horsepower to match the likes of Bernstein. And Bernstein is really on a roll. He won that Englishtown race, runner-up 2 weeks ago in Columbus, Ohio. He has the consistency. He has the performance. He was the low elapsed time car in round 1, Brock, at 492.
He was, Steve. However, had qualified number 2, and he beat Ed McCullough, who's always tough in round 1. Bernstein got by Tommy Johnson Jr. Let's see how he does against Jim Head, and he'll win it.
Kenny Bernstein at 5:16, slowing way down. There's a mechanical problem there somewhere. 280 miles an hour. Jim Head not only was laid off the line, he smoked the tires to a dismal 6:07. Let's go to Bob.
I can tell by the way you look, you're not overly excited about that win.
No, it's very serious, very serious. We lost lane choice, and I just put a cylinder out, and it's very discouraging.
Which is the more discouraging, losing the cylinder or losing lane choice?
Oh, losing lane choice, because we can fix the losing cylinders, but it's going to be tough now in that other lane.
Well, major disappointment by Dale Armstrong simply because the lane in which this man is now going to compete down the Snake Prudhomme has a big bump in it about halfway down, and nobody wants to race there. Not the top fuel guys, not the funny car guys, not even the pro stock guys. But right now, Don Prudhomme will face that problem. He is going to race Joe Amato, who, not surprisingly, has lane choice and has the good lane. But first, let's go to Steve with Kenny.
I don't have to tell you, you're strapped into this thing. It fell way off.
It really did. It dropped the cylinder, ran terrible. And the worst part about it, lost lane choice, and this is pretty important today.
Why is lane choice so important?
Well, it looks like the left lane's a little better than the right. The right lane's got a little bit of a dip, and it seems to upset the cars. But it's 140 degrees on the racetrack right now out there, and it's tough to get down it anyway.
So, Kenny Bernstein expresses one more opinion on this racetrack, Steve Evans, and none of it's good as far as that one lane is concerned.
And I'll tell you, down here, Dale Armstrong is hot. He's not mad at Kenny Bernstein. He's mad at the motor for dropping cylinders, and he's furious at the racetrack for not having equal lanes. Now, Joe Amato, he has had an okay season. Not a great one for a 5-time champion. He's won 2 national events. His problem is going out early in the ones that he's lost. So he's way back in the points, the man from Old Forge, Pennsylvania. The guy's up against Don the Snake Prudhomme. He would trade seasons in a heartbeat with Amato. This is only the second time the Snake has gone to the second round. His longtime crew chief, John Medlin, resigned because Medlin felt he just wasn't bringing enough to the operation. A class guy. The Snake hated to see him go. So now it's crew chief by committee. Don Prudhomme, Dana Kimmel, Dickie Venables all working on the Snake's car. And, of course, Joe Amato has Larry Meyer in his corner. Pre-stage. Snake's in. Amato's in. Good start. Snake hanging in there until he loses traction and falls back 2 car lengths. Joe Amato had the better clutch tune-up. 5:07 at 287 miles an hour for Amato. A great reaction time by both drivers. Prudhomme a 4.2, Amato a 4.3. They were on their game, Brian.
They sure were, and the Snake really was trying hard until he lost traction about half track. As you can see, though, for all intents and purposes, an equal launch by both drivers. And Prudhomme just a wink ahead of Amato, but it's better traction on the part of Joe Amato that pulls out the victory. 287 miles an hour in the top end of 5:07 ET. Not great, but it'll put them into the semis.
Joe, just not smoking the tires is a triumph of sorts today.
Yeah, just to get down the track, the heat is so bad. You know, we're just trying to get wind lights, and you don't want to smoke the tires.
And you'd like to keep lane choice. I don't know if a 5:07 will do that. We'll know in a moment.
Yeah, it's going to be real critical because that right lane has a bad bounce out about 300 feet, and it's real hard to not smoke the tires.
Exactly what Kenny Bernstein said.
So Joe hoping he does not see that right lane as he heads into the semis. Beautiful aerial shot of this terrific Topeka racetrack. Big crowd on hand for the Western Auto Nationals. Stick with us. We'll be right back from Kansas.
We're back at the Western Auto Nationals. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Bob Froy, and that is Rance McDaniel, who top fuel races for the fun of it and has beaten the best this year, including a runner-up finish at the Mopar Nationals in Englishtown, New Jersey. And he is up against about the best here this weekend, Scott Coletta, Brock.
He sure is. Scott qualified number 1. But remember now, Steve, both these guys are in this race in the 490s. Coletta has lane choice at a 495, but a 497 for Rance McDaniel puts him right in the hunt.
Scott Coletta won the Winston Invitational, but has not won a points event this year. Rance McDaniel, I tell you, this guy out of Fresno, California, he builds race car trailers for a living, has an all-volunteer crew, and they have proved their mettle this year. They've had clutch explosions and come back when few teams could have, teams with far larger budgets. So here you see Rance McDaniel and Scott Coletta. Only the strong survives. And the strong is Scott Coletta. An amazing 4.1 reaction time and a very nice 4.98 elapsed time at 285 miles an hour. Scott is on a tear. Let's go to the starting line and Bob.
Maybe this weekend?
Well, it's very possible. You know, we're kind of playing under a handicap this weekend because we only made 2 qualifying runs on Friday, and Scott had to leave. And we've been tiptoeing today quite a bit, and we just hope that we can keep it soft like that and go down the racetrack, and maybe we can win this thing for him.
Getting down the track seems to be the key to this race.
That's definitely the key to it. The track's so hot out, and the track is balling up a little bit, but I think we'll be in good shape here.
And a key to this team's success, Dick LaHaye.
Oh, we'll agree to that, Bob. He's done a terrific job with Scott's car all season long. So, Scott Coletta will face Joe Amato in the first pair of the final 4, and Scott will enjoy lane choice. The second half of that pairing, Kenny Bernstein and Eddie Hill. And Eddie Hill, not surprisingly, does have lane choice in that race. Steve?
Scott, first the pole position and now the best elapsed time of the quarterfinals at 4.98. Good driving, good tuning.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, Dick's done a heck of a job on this marginal racetrack, and hopefully we can continue and, you know, stay right there. I think if we can do that, we'll be looking good.
And you earned lane choice. That could be critical.
Very critical, I think.
So does everybody else, as a matter of fact, especially those that don't have it.
Well said, Steve, because there are a bunch of guys out here that are going to try to get lane choice in funny car as we get ready to go in funny car round 2. Burnouts completed. That's Chuck Etchells backing up down there. He's going to face Gary Saloni. Now, Etchells will have lane choice, Steve, by a pretty good margin of 5.3 to a 6.2.
I tell you, a guy like Gary Saloni, who truly is an up-and-comer, scares the pants off of guys like Chuck Etchells and John Force because they really don't know what to expect from him. They haven't seen him enough. And it frightens them a little bit. That almost rather race each other. Chuck Etchells sporting his new Kendall livery for only the second race, has Tim Richards as his crew chief, the general. And Gary Saloni, this is truly a family operation. Father and son out of the Keystone State. And I look forward, Brock, to these guys maybe being a player by 1994.
Well, it's possible, Steve. He beat Richard Hartman, who was no pushover in round number 1. So you can be sure that Etchells and crew chief Tim Richards take him very seriously. And notice that Richards is trying to push Etchells over a little bit. Looks like he may be a little out of those tire tracks, Steve.
Yeah, you can see it. In fact, he straightened it out. Tim did a bit. It might be just an inch out, and that shouldn't hurt it. All right, Saloni, the rookie. Chuck Etchells, longtime competitor on the NHRA Winston Trail. Etchells last to stage. Etchells last to leave the starting line, too, but he has got the power. Saloni has problems with the right lane. Etchells wins it at a not too impressive 5.38 at only 267 miles an hour. So he shut that car up a bit early. The speed reflects that. Let's again go to Bob.
Tim, 5.38. I think that's pretty good considering the track and the temperature condition.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. We'll take it. I think he lifted down there a little bit, and he must have felt that spinning the tires pretty good, so I don't know.
Looked like right before he staged up, you might not have been happy with where he was in line.
No, I wasn't. I wanted to get him over to the left a little bit more, but he felt as though he couldn't get the car straight and still be turning that sharp close to the line.
We know drag racers don't need to turn. They just need to go 5.38.
And to go straight, Bob Fry, that's for sure. So Tim Richards pretty happy with a 5.38. Let's see if Gordy Bonin coming to the line right now against Tom Hoover can duplicate that. Bonin has a lane choice of 5.40 versus a 5.44 for Hoover. So pretty even as far as those cars are concerned. Very experienced drivers, good guys, both of them. But the handicap is on this man, Tom Hoover. He's got the bad lane. He's going to have to be very, very conservative, as is Gordy Bonin. He's got to be careful, too, if he wants to get into the next round with Chuck Etchells, who's with Steve.
Chuck, the tires started to smoke, and you applied some old slick track savvy to her.
Well, actually, Steve, was going fast enough by the time it got to that point where I just kind of let it go do its own thing down there. You know, this is an unbelievable set of conditions we're in. It's like we're racing ourselves and not anybody else. We're racing for that, you know, great low lapse time of the round, and we've really got to watch what Force is doing up here.
Let's hope that a 5.38 will give you lane choice.
Well, I don't know. Let's just pray.
Well, I'd say right now, Steve, as Chuck Etchels gets ready to go, that Tom Hoover is in an unbelievably underdog position. Not only does it have the bad lane, but Gordy Bonnet qualified number 2 here in Roland Leong's car and has run very, very well considering the conditions.
Tom Hoover has decades of experience. If anybody can get down that right lane, it's Hoover. Gordy Bonnet, back in the car after an almost 10-year semi-retirement, has done a tremendous job. In fact, he won the last race on the schedule in this Hawaiian vacation car, owned by Roland Leong, tuned by Roland, and of course Leonard Hughes. That's Leonard backing away with the headset on. Bonnet, a gifted race car driver. I think he could have driven anything with 4 wheels on it.
Very enthusiastic, very intense driver. Tom Hoover, though, pretty laid back. As you said, he's done it so many times. He's so experienced. He and his dad, George, come to the races and always do a good job.
All right, it is Hoover on the left side of your screen, Bonnet on the right. Who moves first? Hoover by 100th. Hoover gives up. Bonnet has something go wrong. My guess would be maybe a blower belt. The supercharger dry belt, just a guess. Only a 6:48 as the result. Gordy Bonnet not looking good in the lane choice department. We'll be right back.
Back at Topeka, where we see John Force about to do his burnout, and Steve Evans, has anybody dominated plenty car competition this deep into a season like John Force has so far?
Well, if he can win here today, he will set the all-time record for 7 victories in a season, and this season is just at its midway point. The answer is no, nobody ever has. And he's #1 qualifier here. John Force, so popular, so aggressive, so great with the fans and the sponsors. And Kenji Okazaki has been a wonderful surprise. Coming out of Tokyo, Japan, flies in for every race. But earlier, in round #1 against Dean Scusa, Kenji in the Moon Eyes car was over on the far side. Now watch Kenji. He'll win the race, but pay the price right about there. You see all the smoke out of the engine? Well, the car owner, Big Jim Dunn, inspected it between rounds, found a big crack in the block, and in that they didn't have lane choice, they were facing John Force anyway. He let discretion be the better part of valor. So Force will have a single run.
As we watch Austin Coyle, the crew chief on Force's car, from the cockpit, position John. This is critical. Remember, lane choice always at stake here. So even though it's a single, a bye run as it were, John Force will have the hammer down, guaranteed. And of course, he's got the left lane.
You're riding along with John. You can't steer him any straighter than that. Force shuts it off early to 273 miles an hour and still runs a 5:28, which is 300s quicker than his #1 qualifying number. This team is just out of control. Here's Bob.
Austin, you not only got lane choice, you got it big time. That's impressive.
Well, that's kind of what we thought we could do here all day long, and we're just, you know, trying to be careful as we can. But really, as long as the last half holds pretty good, why, we should be able to run like that in the next round too, I hope.
Yeah, but the other guys don't.
Well, here coming to the line are 2 guys that we expected at the beginning of the season to really give Force a run for the championship. That, of course, is Al Hoffman. We talked to him earlier. He's had kind of an SG season, as has Cruz Pedregon, the defending champion. We thought he would run head-to-head with Force for most of the season, and like Hoffman, has had an up-and-down season so far. A lot at stake here for Al. In addition to running well, he's going to move his entire racing operation to this racetrack later this season. Going to settle in Topeka, Kansas, race out of here, do some match racing, and be kind of the official spokesman for drag racing here in the state of Kansas. That's going to be interesting. But right now, he's concentrating on Pedregon. Notice the little no burger sign that Hoffman's got on the back of his car. So that race coming up. But right now, let's go to Steve with John Force.
Just a back-breaking, throat-ripping 5:28 on a single. No mercy from John Force today.
Well, I guess that's what I pay Austin Coyle for. Love them guys. They really have instilled a lot of confidence in me, and of course the single really helped. It was kind of nice, but gave me a deal to kind of shallow stage and try to get an ET down through there, and that's what we did, and ran good.
And you'll get lane choice, and everybody wants that badly.
Very, very critical here to win this race. Like I say, anybody could win it, but lane choice, we went after it, we got it, and that's what it's all about.
All right, John Force feeling good right now with that 5:28. This is Cruz Pedregon in that beautiful McDonald's automobile backing into position. But a major handicap, Steve. He's got the bad lane.
Yeah, but he's an amazing young driver. I tell you, John Force, way ahead in the points. He still fears Cruz might reel off 5 in a row as he did in the latter part of the '92 season. Al Hoffman, Well, he's in Florida now. He's soon going to be a Jayhawker. Buster Couch now having a look at the Hoffman car. The body was up. Tom Anderson says, Buster, it's okay. Buster said, okay. You say it's okay? Because it's okay. Buster controls that starting line. Let me tell you what, and he has seen it all. Nobody tricks him. Helen Hoffman, the last to leave the scene. 10,000 collective horsepower. And so far, Pedregon is handling the lane. Now he loses traction, but Hoffman cannot catch him. The first win we have seen in the near lane of the racetrack, and not a bad one at 5:48. No speed at all, which tells you he really backpedaled in all of that tire smoke, Brock.
Did a great job, as you said, Cruz Pedregon, with that driving talent that we know he has, and an excellent crew and car. Did work against major handicaps in this lane. Drove around Al Hoffman. Looked like Al maybe was a little conservative on the clutch setup. He just never got a lot of bite on that car, and it was a very conservative setup that perhaps beat Al Hoffman and puts Cruz Pedregon into the Final Four here at Topeka. So let's see how that will stack up. As we said, Cruz will face Gordy Bonin, and Pedregon amazingly has a lane choice. So Cruz dodges a bullet there in that bad lane and heads into the Final Four, as does Chuck Etchels against John Force. And do I have to tell you, Force with that 528 has lane choice.
When the tires started to smoke, I think a lot of people gave up on Cruz Pedregon. You didn't give up. That's the important thing.
No, we didn't give up. You know, he can't against Al Hoffman. Those guys do a great job. And I'll tell you, that lane was tricky. It has a big bump out there, and I knew I was kind of ready for it. So, you know, we got the break.
A 548 is probably going to put you back in that lane for the Final Four.
That's okay. As long as the McDonald's car's in the next round, we're happy. Thank you, Steve.
Well, Steve, we're going to have to give Cruz a little bit more of a break than you want to give him. He will, in fact, have lane choice against Gordy Bonin, and the first man, as you said, to do really well in that treacherous right lane. We've got some Pro Stock Round 2 action coming up right now. That's Mike Thomas. He's going to go against Larry Morgan, who is revenge-minded, no doubt about that. But first, let's go down to you and Al Hoffman.
Al, from your perspective, what was going on the starting line?
Well, we had a little fuel leak up there. The guys got it fixed, and aside from that, everything went okay. We just dropped the cylinder and we stood on it, and hasn't done that in a while, and we figured we had the problem cured, and obviously we didn't, and we should have won that round.
Heck of a race.
That was a real important race for us, but he ain't going nowhere. We'll get him, and we'll be there at the next one.
He has a sign on the back of his car that says no burgers, and he means it.
Well, that's my mistake. Remember, I said that I thought maybe they missed on the clutch setup. They were just a little too conservative. Al says no. Tommy Anderson did a good job as usual. They just took one cylinder out of the mix, and that hurt.
And that's exactly what happened to Kenny Bernstein earlier on in Top Fuel. All right, Pro Stock. Mike Thomas in this gorgeous Mastercraft Oldsmobile. Oldsmobile's ruling the roost in Pro Stock these days. Mike out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and a real comer. You don't have to tell that to his opponent here, Larry Morgan. Morgan's well aware of his Oldsmobile teammate. Morgan qualified number 6, and he sent Bruce Allen back to Texas in round number 1. And it was Steve Schmidt, who was much the quicker qualifier, who was upset by Mike Thomas in the earlier stanza. Now, this lane, the bump, the dip, whatever you want to call it, there's a difference of opinion on what it is, will affect these Pro Stock cars. Well, doesn't matter with Mike Thomas because he was a little too eager off the starting line. Who knows? He might have won it, but he foul started. A 3-2 reaction time. He was way too early. Larry Morgan goes to the Final Four. Well, maybe Cruz Pedregon's performance in the right lane will pump up this crew as they get Joe Amato's car ready to face Scott Coletta. And we know exactly where Coletta, who has lane choice, is going to put Jose.
I'm Brock Yates, along with Steve Evans and Bob Fry. We're back at the Western Auto Nationals in Topeka, Kansas for more round 2 action in Pro Stock. And Steve, I'll tell you what, the last thing the Pro Stock guys wanted was another Johnson. They've got Warren, and now Kurt is in the league, and he's giving everybody trouble as well.
Absolutely. Kurt Johnson has been a finalist 3 times this year, has been beaten all 3 times by his father. And that scenario could happen here again as they are qualified 1 and 2. But Mark Howick may have something to say about that. Mark won the Motocraft Ford Nationals in Arizona in his Oldsmobile from Ohio. Kurt Johnson remembers that race very well. He got upside down and completely destroyed a $50,000 Pro Stock automobile. But he has recovered from that, obviously, He has the favored lane in the Torco Oldsmobile. Mark Powick, well, let's see how the bump dip affects his Summit Racing Oldsmobile. 2,350 pounds, about 1,300 horsepower, 5-speed trannies, 114 octane racing gasoline. It's your car on steroids. The motor's up. Kurt Johnson a little advantage. But look at Mark Powick. Johnson sliding around the racetrack, and Powick, only our second big-time winner in the right-hand lane, and Mark did it with a 737 to a losing 739. They both had identical top speeds at 187.38 miles an hour. What a beauty.
Oh, it was excellent. Kurt Johnson just a wink quicker off the line, but right here you see Powick start to really hook it up in the near lane, and he drives right around Kurt Johnson to win it. Here you see Powick overcome the bump and keep it straight, while Kurt Johnson gets a little squirrely there, heads toward the center line, keeps it under control, but loses by that much. Steve's with the winner.
Well, Mark, it took a cowboy to divide the forces of the Johnsons. That hasn't happened in a while. Good job.
Thank you, Steve. You know, we've been kind of struggling again like last year. It's been several races since we've been past first round. And
tell us about this race.
This race is a tough one. It was a heck of a race. I think we were pretty close off starting line, and I was waiting for Kurt to move on me, and it looked like he had trouble in the middle of the track, and that's when I gained on him. And our Dave Butner tune, Dart Head, Olds Cutlass was just flying, and we're real happy for everybody.
737 to a 39.
I'll take it.
Finally.
Okay, let's see how Scott Jeffrion is going to go as he backs up with the Mopar Dodge against Mark Osborne. Theoretically, Steve Evans, this would be a layup. He's got the good lane with lane choice against Osborne, but based on what Mark did to Kurt Johnson, who can tell?
Well, Mark Osborne already has one big upset to his credit, and that was Vince Corey in round number 1. Watching Powick has to give him some confidence. Now, Scott Jeffrion drives the shorter wheelbase Dodge Daytona. It is a challenge on any racetrack. And for Scott to get to the final round here, he's going to have to keep that left-hand lane. He could not possibly survive the right lane. Mark Osborne, longer wheelbase car, just like Mark Powick, he might be able to. Oh, Osborne has problems. Scott Jeffrion is gone, but not too rapidly. Only a 740 at 187 miles an hour for Scott Jeffrion. We'll have to see if that 740 is enough for lane choice, because Scott will race the winner of the next pair on the starting line.
And this man is the current King Kong of Pro Stock competition, Warren Johnson. Low qualifier here, low ET in the first round. Has won 5 events so far this year. Has been #1 qualifier in every event except one. What else can I say? And poor Lewis Worden has the dubious distinction of facing him. He's got the bad lane, and he has his work cut out for him. But first, let's go to Steve.
Well, Scott, the time slip wasn't one for the scrapbook. The important thing is we're talking and you're moving ahead.
Yeah, you know, these all important Winston points, and that's what we're here after. And round by round, we'll just keep taking them as they come.
How tough is this track for a Pro Stock car? Tougher than the fuel cars?
Well, it's pretty tough, let me tell you. I couldn't see straight in 3rd and 4th gear. It was just a big blind sight out there.
Just hang on.
Well, let's see whether or not he's going to face Warren Johnson or Lewis Worden. And I'll tell you what, if Worden wins this one, it's going to be the upset of the century.
That's right, and it'll shock Warren Johnson right to his knees. I can guarantee you that. The defending Winston champion. Lewis Worden out of Festus, Missouri. Big, strong, athletic-looking kid, and you can bet he'll be gunning for any advantage he can get here. Now, Mark Powick may have driven a little further in low gear, or a little further in 2nd gear to conquer this so-called bad lane. You can bet that Lewis Worden was watching very intently. Let's see if he can make it click, too. Johnson will not be pushing the tree. He's got everything in his hand. All the aces. Oh, but Worden does push the tree in too hard. He red lights away any shot he might have had, but still, what a fight he put up. A 739 in the bad lane, but that is, of course, wiped out by the red light. Warren Johnson has lane choice now over Scott Jeffrion, 731, 189 miles an hour. The Johnson juggernaut continues.
So if Scott Jeffrion had a bumpy ride in the good lane, he better hold on to his fillings, because he's got the bump against Warren Johnson in the final 4. The other pairing, Mark Powick against Larry Morgan, 2 Oldsmobiles. That's going to be interesting. Larry Morgan has the lane choice.
Well, even the mighty Warren Johnson couldn't get in the 720s on this track in this heat. 731.
Oh, it was terrible out there. We were just sliding and fishtailing all over. I mean, it probably felt like a funny car that's loose out there because, I mean, I was driving that thing the last half of that racetrack. I was just hanging on for dear life.
Has this become a driver's race more than horsepower now?
Well, early on I predicted it's going to be a tuner's race to start with, but now it's a combination of the two.
Well, Johnson being the tuner and the driver on that car, he can handle both jobs. As Gordy Bonin's crew gets ready to face him off against Cruz Pedregon in the funny car Final Four. That coming up and lots more.
We're back in Topeka with the big guns, the Nitro Cannons. Kenny Bernstein up against Eddie Hill in the Final Four. You're riding with a man who's very concerned, as is his crew chief, not only about the men he has to face, Eddie Hill, about dropping cylinders. And what they mean is the spark plugs just don't fire the fuel. And that crippled cylinder goes along for the ride, and the other 7 have to support it. And the hotter it gets, the more humid it gets, the harder it is to get these magnetos, as giant as they are. They call them magzillas. And there's 2 of them on each engine with 16 spark plugs and still can't fire that volume of fuel. And that's what Dale Armstrong hopes that he has solved. Kenny Bernstein, on the other hand, hopes that he can put that horsepower to the ground in a lane that has been, well, highly criticized, would be kind.
It's going to be interesting to see as we look over the shoulder of Eddie Hill. There's his wife, Percy, getting him in a position he's getting ready to stage. He obviously is going to be pretty conservative here because he knows all the burden of running well is on Kenny Bernstein.
And there you see it. Kenny Bernstein sees it as well. Eddie Hill goes to the final round with another very nice 498, 277 miles an hour. Bernstein dropping cylinders again. Let's go to Bob Fry with Fuzzy.
A mildly popular win, I would say.
Yeah, we just hopped it up just a little bit. The track actually got better, and it's looking real good, so the final should be a real good drag race.
Now, the obvious question, lane choice seems to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, the left lane is the best. You seen on Bernstein's car, as it went over a hump down there, it kicked the tire, so, you know, that hurt him real bad.
All right, take a look at Bernstein's car here in the left lane. You will see, even though he has a better reaction time, the raw fuel pouring out of that right side header, that is unignited nitromethane, and that means a loss of what, 600-700 horsepower, and that of course spells the defeat for Kenny Bernstein and moves Eddie Hill with a beautifully consistent 498 into the finals. Let's go to Steve.
You are one lucky guy. The burst panel on the blower is pushed out just as you made the turn.
I see that. That's why oh, did it pop out down here?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, red car for a long ways, but I thought I had the finish line first, and man, it feels good. That's great for us in the points deal. We really needed that.
A 498, about what you thought?
We were shooting for a 497, but we'll take a 98.
I wouldn't fight you for a 100th of a second. Great job.
Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, either one of these guys will take a 498. That is Joe Amato, and he has got what we call the bad lane, or the less good lane here at Topeka, Steve. And he's going against Scott Coletta, who is showing all kinds of strength today.
We just received some data from some of our spies in the pit. It is hotter now than it was the previous round. The track temperatures are even worse. The tire temperatures at the other end are 10 degrees up, so things have not cooled one bit here in Topeka. Joe Amato knows that as he tries to restrain his 5,000 horsepower with a handbrake. You see the blue glove on it. Amato will be carrying our onboard camera. Scott Coletta, who has qualified #1 so many times this year, he would trade all of those for one win. You heard him say that at the top of the show. That's Coletta over the far lane, the red car. His dad, Connie, here looking on along with crew chief Dick LaHaye. Amato with a better light, no surprise there. Amato dropping more cylinders than Bernstein did. And you can clearly see that you just lost riding with Joe Amato. Scott Coletta falls off. Not a big surprise either, considering the weather stats we just told you, to a 509 at 277.
Gee, I can tell by the excitement on your face you're happy to be in the finals, but you can't be pleased with that performance.
Well, when it left the start line, it put a cylinder on. That was on 7 cylinders, so we make a run on 8 cylinders, and it'll be just fine.
And the obvious question now is, can you win on the right side of the track?
Well, we set low ET and qualified #1 over there, so we're going to give it our best shot. That's all we can do.
Look at that smiling face. They're in the finals.
So as former Winston champion Dick LaHaye heads back to the pits in search of that lost cylinder, let's take another look at this race. Joe Amato in the left lane cuts a near perfect light of 418, but suddenly a whole bunch of cylinders start to go away on him and leave Scott Coletta with a really very easy victory, but not enough to give him lane choice in the finals at a 5:09. So that is a disappointing pass in a way for Scott. He will be in the dreaded right lane against Eddie Hill with an excellent 498 against a 509. So Scott Coletta's work cut out for him here at Topeka.
Well, Scott, you've made the final round, but you know Eddie Hill is going to be a huge handful when you get there.
Yeah, you haven't told me what I ran yet, so that's going to make a little bit of a difference. I know it wasn't quite flat.
Wasn't enough for lane choice. 09.
It slowed down, yeah. Okay, well, we put another blower on it and so forth just to get another one on. Well, the other one we stripped at the last run, so we'll put it back on and, you know, go after it.
And the big asset is Dick LaHaye in his camp. Thanks, Scott.
All right, that is Larry Morgan's pro stock car, that vivid purple automobile. He is going to go against Mark Powick in the pro stock Final Four. Stick with us from Topeka.
Hey, we're back at the Western Auto Nationals in Topeka, Kansas. And while we've got just a second, how about a word about NHRA Now, presented by Castrol GTX. It's a 24-hour drag racing information line with the latest info on your favorite drivers and events. You just call 1-900-468-NHRA. Under 18, ask your parents. Charges will appear on your phone bill. That's NHRA Now. Those of you who watch our drag racing coverage regularly know what a terrible 12 months Gordon Minio has had. Unfortunately, crashes and fires, you name it, and the Western Auto Nationals was no exception. This was in qualifying. The good news is, once again, Gordon Minio rode out an inferno.
Well, Gordon, enough is sometimes enough. This has got to stop somewhere for your own personal safety.
Yeah, I hear that. I really don't know what happened in there. I don't know if it blew through the clutch, pitched the rod out, what happened. It wasn't all that bad of a run, I didn't think.
No, it was not. You're used to fighting these fires.
Yeah, I guess I had to open up a little school, huh? Everybody else has.
I'd hope nobody enrolls.
Anybody needs some help with it, though, I can help them.
A very tough break, but fortunately no injury to a fine competitor, Gordon Minio, as you can see the charred interior of that race car. Let's hope that we don't see a repeat of that right now, Steve, as the Final Four here at Topeka begins to unfold. That, of course, is Gordy Bonnet, and he faces Cruz Pedregon, and Cruz is in the good lane.
Yeah, and he earned the right to be over there, too, with a stellar driving job in the previous round. If there's another driver that has the seat-of-the-pants feeling for these cars that can do the same thing, it's a Gordy Bonnet. And, of course, his car owner, Roland Leong, you see out there guiding him back. And Leonard Hughes, the crew chief, they've got a lot of slick track experience. This could be a very interesting race. The Pedregon team, I think, Brock, they have to bite the bullet and say, let's not hop it up just because we've got lane choice.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Leonard Hughes, a man who has been with a whole bunch of touring funny cars over the years, as has Roland Leong. You mentioned these guys know how to set a car up for bumpy racetracks. So we could see this disadvantage that we've been talking about all day long in this right lane nullified here with just raw experience.
So Gordy Bonnet hopes to send Cruz Pedregon on an early vacation, keep him out of the final round. Pedregon would like to send Gordy to McDonald's for a late afternoon snack. Let's see how it unfolds. Bonnet takes his time. That's smart. Deep stages. That might have thrown Pedregon off. Bonnet has the whole shot. Look at Bonnet negotiate. Pedregon has some motor or traction problems. It's hard to tell where that smoke came from. The important thing is Gordy Bonnet has pulled a whopping upset. 537 to a 539, 271 to only 268. Bob?
Roland, you guys did the seemingly impossible. You won on the right side of the track.
Well, yeah, Leonard got it figured out. Now it's going to be tough to see what we can match with Forrest, but we'll see what we can do.
You think that'll keep lane choice that time?
I doubt it, but you never know.
Well,
The Hawaiian says sayonara to the Mickey D's car. I'm not sure that's right.
Of course it's right, Bob. You're never wrong. Let's take another look here. We were fairly right here by thinking that possibly Gordy Bonnet had a good shot at it, and he did. He had a whole shot of 45 against a 48 reaction time, but it was solid driving right here at mid-track where Gordy Bonnet negotiated that bump and drove right by Pedregon for the victory. An excellent pass by Gordy Bonnet under difficult conditions.
Gordy Bonnet put us in the driver's seat on that race. It was 0.02 of a second by which you won.
200s, we like that. Damn, that right lane is okay after all. I saw him out there for just a split second, but Leonard and Roland, that Mopar performance, down here at the other end.
537 to a 39.
That'll work. Now, if Forrest can stumble, we'll be okay.
He doesn't look like he's going to do that.
He may be right. He's going to need a stumble. Here we go with the other half of the Final Four. We'll soon find out whether Mr. Force is capable of a stumble as Chuck Etchels completes his burnout. And in the other lane, who else but John Force?
If there has been a kink in the armor of Chuck Etchels, there you see Kim LaHaye and the rest of the crew looking in there. I don't think that's a problem. It has been his reaction time, and often you can't blame that on the driver. The car is partially responsible for some of that reaction time, how quickly the clutch and all the drivetrain hooks up. Again, no problem here. That is a standard op for Austin Boyle and the John Force crew. The body up, doing whatever it is they do, and they're not apt to tell us everything.
Well, we saw there's Buster Couch getting ready as they move into stage. Tim Richards guiding Chuck Etchels in there. Critical part of this drag racing procedure is to make sure that you're really properly staged and in your tire tracks that you use for the burnout to get maximum traction.
We're on board with Force. You look to the right there. Etchels was right with him until he lost traction over the bump. John Force, another science fiction 5.269 elapsed time. A huge speed for today, 284 miles an hour. Etchels was in the game. They left together, but his 5:48 is slowed due to tire smoke.
Well, there you see Etchels in the left lane, right out with Force, almost equal reaction times, and they were in it right to about here where the dreaded bump takes hold, and Etchels loses traction, and John Force charges through to a 5:26. That will give him lane choice over Gordy Bonnet by a mile, and guess which lane he's going to take. So John Force into the finals with a 5:26 against a 5:37 for Gordy Bonnet, and the massive handicap placed on the Hawaiian car.
Did you love Gordy Bonnet taking out Cruz Pedregon?
Hey, my old buddy Gordy, it was spectacular. Way to go, Gordy.
Now you got to take him out.
Well, but don't matter. We're just rounding points, and winning this race would be great. But a lot of excitement on the start line. Cole and Bernie, watch the chewing I'm going to get when they get here. I put on both lights on the tree before Etchels came in, and it was really by accident. And it was like valves are wrong, push him down, push him back. It was okay. We got by it.
5:26.
Was that low?
For the round, yeah. You got lane choice.
Yeah, lane choice. In took.
In fact, the low ET of all the eliminations so far.
We're back in Topeka for the Western Auto Nationals, and we're about to find out if the Final Four in Pro Stock can have any luck negotiating that right-hand or near lane as Gordy Bonnet and Cruz Pedregon did. All right, let me take just a moment to invite you to become a member of a very special organization, the National Hot Rod Association. For $52 per year, you get 48 issues of National Dragster, a patch, a pin, a rule book, a ton of goodies. And if you order by calling the number on your screen, hey, you'll get a free copy of Diamond P's home video, Drag Racing 92. So call today. I'm a member. Brock's a member.
And I'll guarantee you this guy's a member. That is Mark Powick backing into position. He is going to go against Larry Morgan, and this is going to be an interesting race. A couple of Oldsmobiles and a couple of guys that are really a little more hungry, perhaps, than Warren Johnson and some of the other more consistent winners in Pro Stock, Steve.
Well, especially Larry Morgan, as he told us at the top of the show after failing to qualify in his home track in Columbus, Ohio 2 weeks ago. He is redeeming himself in his own mind and certainly in that of his sponsors. As for Mark Powick, well, he has proven to himself that he can win in that bumpy little old lane on the left-hand side of your screen. That's Powick. Now on the left-hand side of your screen, that's Morgan. It's a Morgan pole shot, just a whisker though. Powick again straight and strong in the near lane, but it is not enough. The purple shirts are applauding. That means Larry Morgan is going to the finals at 7:39, 186 miles per hour. But just a classic pro stock race, Brock.
Excellent, Steve. As a matter of fact, it was probably lost right here. Mark was just a wink late off the line, then ran head-to-head with Larry Morgan, but it was that tiny little difference on the starting line that was enough to bring Larry Morgan into the finals. There you see that purple Oldsmobile just moving straight and through in the good lane. Mark Powick doing a really good job in the bumps, but he can't win it. There's the margin of victory.
Pretty good car race, huh?
I would say so. I'd say that we both had probably a pretty good run.
7:39 for you, and you were fighting that racetrack. Everybody is.
Well, I'll tell you, the track's not real good right now. It's real hot. The conditions aren't very good, but I'll tell you what, I'm sure glad to have the Castrol Super Clean Oldsmobile in the final.
Been a long time.
It has been a long time. It's too bad I beat my buddy Mark, but that happens.
Okay.
So the Battle of Ohio, the two Ohio boys, it goes to Larry Morgan. Now he's going to look down track to see who he is going to face in the finals, and this is going to be a good one, Steve.
It could be a good one, providing, of course, that Scott Jeffrey on, who is the opponent of this man, Warren Johnson, can get down that right lane. You heard Scott complaining vehemently about the good lane.
Yeah.
And as we said before, the Dodge Daytona has a shorter wheelbase. It has a shorter wheelbase from the factory, so it has to maintain that wheelbase in pro stock race trim. That's the rules, and NHRA is very strict about keeping these cars as much like the cars that people in the grandstands drive as possible.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the bodywork is absolutely identical. They look a little different because of that big hood scoop and that wing on the back, but the profile, the silhouette of the bodies is exactly stock.
It even uses the stock steel roof and rear quarter panels. Dodge versus Oldsmobile. Oldsmobile has had a lock on pro stock here in Topeka. In fact, for virtually the entire year, with the exception of Scott's win in Memphis and a win earlier by Bob Glidden. You saw Jeffrey on get a little squirrely at the top of second gear, but he drove out of it and darn near pulled it off. But it's Warren Johnson going to the final round again at 7:31, 189 miles an hour. Jeffrey on at 7:36 indeed put up the good fight.
He sure did, and he did a lot of it right here. A 4.5 light against a 4.6 light for Warren Johnson. Johnson may have been taking it a little bit easy off the line just to be sure, because he knows he's got that monster power to rely on. And perhaps he was relying also on the fact that Scott Jeffreyon would have, as he did, a little bit of problem in this lane. The car just a little bit out of shape, and that plus Warren Johnson's big power carries him on into the finals against Larry Morgan. So let's make it official. Here are two Oldsmobile drivers who are going to fight it out in pro stock. Larry Morgan, Warren Johnson. Warren will have lane choice, 7:31 versus a 7:39. Could be interesting.
Warren, I don't think it can be done any better than that on this racetrack. Another 7:31.
We're happy with a 7:31. That's not a really spectacular run, but given the conditions, we're happy with that.
And it gives you lane choice by a whopping amount, like 800s.
I'm not so sure that's going to be a whole lot of difference. Both of these lanes are moving around quite substantially. The left lane maybe a little bit smoother. The right lane's got a little bit of a bump, but further on down track, that left lane is a handful.
As the sun sinks, could it get a little better?
Yeah, probably just a 5 or 10 degree drop in temperature on the track surface would be an instant cure for it.
Let's hope we get it.
Okay, Warren Johnson going into the finals as he had so many times. Ursi Hill right there, loading up the fuel tank with raw nitro as her husband gets ready to go against Scott Coletta.
Well, here at the Western Auto Nationals, NHRA Championship Drag Racing continues. Only the finals remain, and there's one half of the top fuel finale. This is Scott Coletta's pit area. His crew headed by Dick LaHaye over there in the blue shirt, trying to figure out exactly what they can do to negotiate this car down that bumpy near or right-hand lane. And, of course, his adversary will be Eddie Hill. But first, let's kick off the finals, Brock, with Pro Stock.
And I think Warren Johnson injected a little bit of interest into this deal, Steve, because he said the last 8th mile in his lane is really slick. So we got a bump in Larry Morgan's lane, and we got a slick racetrack in Warren Johnson's side. So this could be less predictable than we thought.
And you know, the proof of that was when we watched in replay Warren's own son, Kurt, sliding around at the 1,000-foot mark. There you see Larry Morgan. He's put a new transmission in this car. He did the clutch himself. Didn't leave it up to anybody else. There'll be no excuses on his part. And the reason the pro stock cars are sliding around down there, their tires are not as wide as the top fuel cars. They don't have a great big wing like a top fuel dragster. They don't have the wedge shape like a funny car with the body tilted down to push that car. They can be treacherous automobiles. A lot of people feel these are the toughest of the pro cars to drive, and I think I probably agree with that, especially on a day like this.
And the engines are also positioned in the stock placement, so they got a lot of frontward weight bias. So all in all, they are cranky automobiles. Plus the fact that drivers got to do some serious gear changing in there.
Absolutely. Some do it manually. Others do it with an air shifter and just push a button. See Warren Johnson, the GM Performance Parts Oldsmobile, the Super Clean Oldsmobile Larry Morgan. This is it for the Western Auto Nationals Pro Stock title. Morgan put a little pressure on Johnson. Morgan with a big hole shot. Larry Morgan has big trouble. He has shut that automobile off, and Warren Johnson will win another NHRA championship, his 6th one of the year, a huge points lead, a 7:31 at 189 miles an hour, polished off this field.
But not without a major try by Larry Morgan in that purple Oldsmobile in the left lane. Great reaction time by Morgan, a terrific hole shot, a 4.2 light. He squeezed it against a rather leisurely 4.8 for Warren Johnson. But here is where the mechanical problems he encounters in the near lane. Larry Morgan falls off the pace. Warren Johnson just drives through at a 7:31, 189 miles an hour to take his 6th Winston Championship race this year.
Warren, your 3rd consecutive 7:31. Boy, that is consistency. Overused term, but the most important thing in pro stock racing.
Well, consistency, what it took today. I mean, it wasn't all that fast, but we won. I'll tell you, that thing is unbelievable out there. We're just shaking and vibrating in the middle of that course. I'm glad we don't have to go into a turn under full throttle after that stuff.
And you were concerned with Larry Morgan. He's a great racer, and he threw everything he had at his car.
Well, you don't blame him. Last race he didn't qualify, and that just shows you the resolve that Larry's got. He came right back, went right to the final of this race. All these guys are tough.
Again, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Right into the funny car final, Steve. We just get through with pro stock where we watch Warren Johnson continue his domination. Now the big question is, can Roland Leong and Gordy Bonnet break this kind of unbelievable streak that John Force is putting together?
Well, we heard John Force say after he won in the Final Four that, oh, well, it was just getting those points. It was important and getting Pedregon out of there. That's bull. There is no way John Force doesn't want to beat Gordy Bonnet, even though the two are pretty good friends in the pits and even outside of the racetrack. Bonnet, formerly a marketing guy with the National Hot Rod Association, and did a lot of work with John Force in his kind of formative years. There's Roland Leong, maybe the most successful funny car owner ever, unless you count Kenny Bernstein in that as an owner-driver. And they say that everybody but you and me has driven for Roland Leong at one time or another. He's not quick to credit the drivers. Roland's the kind of guy that would like to run it by remote control. Oh, look at Bonnet off the mark. Oh, too much clutch, Leonard. That was it. And there reaching for the parachute was John Force, who has won his 7th National Event of the Year, and that is an all-time record at 5:25. Even quicker yet, and they never singed apart.
Austin, in a word, unbelievable this weekend, these performances in this heat.
Well, what can I say? We've got a great team. John does a great job. Bernie, myself, Larry Frazier, the rest of the guys, we're all doing what we can do to try to get another championship.
All right, let's take a look at Gordy Bonnet, who, like most everybody, squeezes a light in the left lane because he wants to get that little bit of an advantage. He loses some traction right off the bat, and of course up in smoke, and on to victory goes John Force. Tough break for Gordy Bonnet. He had a great afternoon up until that moment when he's gone up in smoke. So Force into victory lane, and Steve is there.
John, that's number 7. Let it all out.
We're letting it out. That's what we call 93. Comeback tour, buddy. And after last year, we needed it. But to beat Gordy Bonnet, I'm proud. 240, we've known him for years. And rolling these guys, they're unbelievable. I'm just proud to be there in the final with them. And all my sponsors, Castro GTX, Jolly Rancheros, the Mr. Gasket people, we want to thank them. And Dorman, great job. The family at home, everybody. We're just really proud to be part of this Western Auto deal and have this old heat back humping. The fans thought Old Force was dead. Well, I ain't dead. We just starting to come alive.
Never intimidated, John Force.
All right, we got one more race left here at Topeka, and that's the Big Iron. The Top Fuel dragster of Eddie Hill goes against Scott Coletta. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The fastest accelerating vehicles in the world are next up and last up at the Western Auto Nationals. The Top Fuel final will conclude what has been a very interesting race. Certainly not a record setter in terms of elapsed time or speed, but what a challenge this racetrack has been to guys like Scott Coletta, who qualified #1, and to guys like Eddie Hill over the other lane, who have ruled eliminations.
No question, and it's demanded an enormous amount not only out of the tuners, but the drivers as well. And I think in a lot of ways that makes it even more interesting than if you've got perfect conditions where the driver is kind of removed from the equation. But now these guys really have to think, and they really have to drive to overcome very, very difficult conditions.
Now the tune-up in the motor, in the clutch, particularly in the motor for Eddie Hill, is his own. He sits in his trailer, works on his computer, and tells the guys what to do. Fuzzy Carter accomplishes all of that work, and Fuzzy does the all-important clutch. This is really a team effort. As far as Scott Coletta's car, well, Dick LaHaye, as Brock said, a former Winston Top Fuel champion himself, he is the one that controls that toolbox and all of those jets and all of those clutch discs. Came on board for a real good salary, it's rumored, at the beginning of the year, as Connie Coletta said, hey, I want my kid to be a winner.
Well, he's got a good shot at it right now, although he's got to get past that yellow car, which has had a wonderful season. As Ursi Hill has positioned her husband on the starting line, he is going to stage here in a second, as is Scott Coletta, and we're going to have the Top Fuel final coming at you.
This is it. You see all the raw fuel out of the Hill motor. That's normal. He's got the system on the high side, as they call it. Oh, Scott Coletta has left too soon. Scott Coletta is going to run it out anyway. Eddie Hill wins it. He would have won it with or without the red light. Forget that. Ursi and crew celebrates a 5:01 smart tuning, 283 miles an hour. Coletta losing, red lighting at 5:16. Let's go down to the starting line for a final time to Bob Fry.
Well, it didn't run a 494, but it got the win light, and that's the important thing, Fuzzy Carter.
It didn't run a 494. I figured it'd run a 494, but it didn't. But we want to thank Pennzoil and Snap-on and Jerry Chevrolet and Trader Tim's out in California helping us, and all my fly-in help, and Ursi and Jan and the whole crew. We've had a real good weekend.
Well, Fuzzy, it ended before it began, really, because right here is a red light for Scott Coletta, and Eddie Hill goes on to victory.
The dream season continues, Eddie.
Oh, man, it feels so good. I can't believe it. I was looking at so much maroon car for so long. It looks like I just barely nipped him right at the end. But, man, what a feeling. We did win, didn't we?
Yeah, well, you were punishing yourself when you didn't have to. He red-lighted. You had one at the start.
Is that right? Well, we ran pretty good anyway. And, man, that was a horse race. Boy, I was pedaling that deal down at the end.
A 5:01 is a parting shot. Again, great job.
We'll take it. Thank you.
Our congratulations to Eddie Hill and to John Force and Warren Johnson. A great day of racing here at the Western Auto National. For Steve Evans and Bob Fry, I'm Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is George E. Orgera. The supervising producer is Tom Gee. Produced and directed by Mark Kuchin. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
How do you top two great videos from Diamond P Sports? With a hat, of course. By calling 1-800-257-6161, you get And They Walked Away Volumes 1 and 2. You save $5 and you get a free Diamond P hat. Featuring the most spectacular spins, flips, wrecks, and fires from the Diamond P archives, this combo is a great motorsports entertainment bargain. With rare footage from drag racing, stock cars, outlaws, swamp buggies, road racing, and more. And now you get a free Diamond P Sports hat as a bonus. You can't top it. To order with credit card, call 1-800-257-6161 or send check or money order for $44.90 plus $6 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. That's 1-800-257-6161.
The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.